It is Monday, June 2nd, and we are witnessing a major sabotage operation at work to stop President Trump's peace plan with Ukraine. The Ukraine-Russia war ramping up last night. Does Trump know what's happening? Does he know what the war hawks in D.C., in his administration and his own party are doing? People like Lindsey Graham, who is in Kyiv stirring things up. These people are crazy. Also, what in the world's happening in Boulder, Colorado? We have the latest, a terrible story, including how the media's reporting on it, and more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So President Trump very close to securing a peace deal with Ukraine and Russia. Peace talks happening today as we speak in Turkey, happening while NATO and the war hawks in D.C. are helping ramp this war up. We saw them do the same thing 2 weeks ago successfully. 2 weeks ago, the Ukrainians launching that drone attack in Kursk, targeting Putin's personal helicopter. After that, what happened? Russia obviously retaliating, launching their own set of retaliatory strikes, the goal of which was clear: to escalate the war. And it worked. Trump came out afterward scalding Putin for that. Watch.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
But did Trump know why Putin retaliated? Was he aware Ukraine almost assassinated President Putin? I don't think he was. The most powerful man probably on the planet, with access to the best intel, unaware this happened.
Can I follow up on that? A Russian commander reportedly said that Putin was almost caught in the middle of a drone attack from Ukraine. So do you have any...
I haven't heard that, but maybe that would be a reason. I don't know, but I have not heard that.
How is that possible? Because his aides are shielding him from what's really going on. Warhawks in his administration, somewhere in his administration, clearly in the driver's seat at some level. Trump may be president, but he only knows what his aides want him to know. His information comes from the intel agencies, from his presidential daily brief. So what's going on, Tulsi? Someone needs to ask Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's DNI, why didn't you inform the president about that, about what really forced Putin to escalate? Well, that was almost 2 weeks ago. And the same thing appears to be happening again, this time even worse. What's being called the largest single-day attack on Russia since the start of the war. Ukraine launching a massive drone operation again, this time using AI to help launch a targeted attack on Russia's nuclear bomber fleet. Yes, you heard that right. Ukraine, Saturday night, striking Russia's nuclear fleet. You can't make this up. Hundreds beyond hundreds of drones striking Russia's nuclear bombers, trains, military bases, and other facilities. An unprecedented attack happening last night by Ukraine, clearly assisted at some level by NATO communication guidance systems. They can't do this alone, Ukraine, causing widespread damage inside Russia. All this happening while Trump is holding peace talks in Istanbul. Peace talks are actively happening in Turkey right now as we speak. This is the exact playbook they used 2 weeks ago during the first round of peace talks. Look, this is the most dangerous point of the war. We said last week we were hearing things were going to ramp up over there, and they have, big time. All while DC war hawks like Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal visit Ukraine on Saturday, 2 days ago, stirring things up, promising to continue funding this war, saying, forget the president, forget Trump, we control the Senate. We'll continue funding the war, pushing his new Russia sanctions bill this week. Lindsey Graham saying Putin's about to be hit and hit hard. Watch what he said.
The game that Putin's been playing is about to change. He's going to be hit and hit hard by the United States. when it comes to sanctions.
And these sanctions will cripple his economy. They will be bone-crushing to a nation that is basically, as one of our colleagues once said, a gas station with nuclear arms.
And one day later, what happens? We see the largest single-day strike on Russia since the war began. These people are crazy. They're working against the foreign policy of the United States. The current foreign policy is to end the war, not escalate it, to cut a peace deal. Does Trump know what's happening? Trump's working overtime to get both sides of the negotiating table, and Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal, meanwhile, are over there stirring this mess up. Trump needs to get him back stateside immediately, tell him to shut his mouth, and stop dragging us into this war. The White House needs to go out there this morning at their press conference, condemn these attacks. We need to know if CIA was given a heads up over this. Was U.S. intel aware this attack was coming? Clearly, Lindsey Graham was. Lindsey Graham knew something from being over there. Did the Russia desk at CIA have any role in this? Did the Ukraine desk know about this? Were they actively assisting Ukraine to blow up Russian nuclear bombers? It's insane. The peace talks in Turkey, meanwhile, wrapping up earlier today. Russia's demands, the same as they were before the war even began. They want Ukraine to stay out of NATO. They want demilitarization, denazification. They want the buffer zone they created and the full end to the conflict. Ukraine, as of today, rejecting this proposal. Ukraine asking for a temporary 30-day ceasefire instead, likely to allow them to resupply. They demand NATO membership, and they want all their land back that Russia's currently occupying. NATO membership, a ridiculous ask, something that would immediately initiate full-scale World War III. And despite what the media says and all the pro-Ukraine propaganda, Ukraine, they can't win this war. Even this latest drone attack, it's comparable to throwing firecrackers at a grizzly bear. It's an annoyance, not a real threat. NATO is Russia's real threat. In another story, the FBI confirming the suspect in Colorado yesterday yelling "Free Palestine" as he immolated innocent people. The suspect has been confirmed to be in the U.S. illegally on an expired visa, entering during the Biden administration's open border policies. Watch.
We're early in the investigation, but some details have emerged. I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
Federal authorities announcing, get this, they found USAID paperwork in the suspect's vehicle. USAID, USAID, the same entity that Elon Musk's Doge shut down. You can't make this up. The organization that Dems have been fighting to keep open to stop the Trump administration from defunding. Unbelievable. CNN deciding to focus on bashing Kash Patel and Dan Bongino for using the word terror to describe the suspect. Who's running things over at CNN? Watch their coverage on this.
Local authorities are saying one thing, and the FBI is saying something slightly different.
Yeah, that's never a great start. I think that the press conference that we saw, one thing was abundantly clear, is the local authorities, and I'm not sure we got the name of that person who was speaking. He seems to be a chief or somebody in charge there.
Same, yes.
He is really very, very careful. And I think that's the right approach at this point. They don't have a clear...
Trump's White House press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, blaming the Biden administration's foolish immigration policies, which let this man into our country in the first place, saying instead of deporting him after his visa expired, the Biden administration let this monster stay in America. Roll the tape.
What's the White House's perspective on this?
Well, FBI Director Kash Patel is absolutely right. And the president just put out a very strong statement condemning this attack. This terrorist came into our country under the previous administration. Joe Biden's administration foolishly gave him a tourist visa and that allowed him to unlawfully remain in our country. This individual should have been deported. Instead, he was welcomed here. And now, 3 years later, after coming to this country under Joe Biden's administration, he is lighting Jewish people on fire who were simply trying to peacefully pay respect to the hostages in Israel. This absolutely is an act of targeted terrorism. The FBI and the Department of Justice are investigating it as such, and the president is going to ensure that this individual is held to the fullest extent of the law. And not just this individual, but any individual, especially illegal criminals who engage in acts of terrorism, will be held accountable under this president.
Meanwhile, DHS and ICE continue to conduct mass arrests and deportations throughout the country, arresting nearly 800 illegals with criminal records in Massachusetts over the last few days, even raiding Democrat Jerry Nadler's office following accusations that his staff helped to harbor rioters. This is wild. Watch.
Congressman, you have a situation you're also dealing with that I wanted to ask you about, of course. I'm going to play the video that we have obtained for our viewers while I describe the situation. This happened last week. Federal officers with DHS were seen going into your district office in New York. They handcuffed and detained one of your aides for a period of time. And according to DHS in the statement that they put out, it says that the agents entered because they were told protesters were in your office and that they were concerned for the safety of your staff. When they arrived, the quote from DHS is, one individual became verbally confrontational and physically blocked access to the office. And the person was detained so the officers could conduct their check and then were released. What is your view of what happened?
Well, my view of what happened is outrageous. My first concern was for the safety of my staff member, and I didn't say anything. And I decided to speak out after the DHS released their misleading and frankly lying story about what happened. DHS was upset that some of my staff members were watching them grab immigrants emerging from an immigration court in the same building a floor below. And they were upset that my staff invited some of the observers up to my office. They then came up to the office and demanded entrance. One of my staff members said, "You can't come in here, you need a warrant." They said, "No, we don't need a warrant," which is incorrect. And they barged in, and in barging in, one of the officers, a very big, heavy-set fellow, pushed my aide, a very petite young woman, and they then said that she pushed back, and they shackled her and took her downstairs. And she was obviously traumatized. Now, the fact is that this was totally unacceptable. The tactics were totally unacceptable, and they needed the warrant. And my office is a congressional office. It's a completely separate branch of government, a co-equal branch of government with the executive for which they work, and they had no right to come in, and they had no right to disregard the co-equal branch of government, which is to say, Congress. So I am demanding. I'm asking for an investigation. I'm communicating with Jim Jordan, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, demanding an investigation of this incident, generally of ICE tactics, which are frankly very threatening to
Congressman, have you reached out to the secretary? I mean, as you know, the ranking member in Judiciary, one of the senior member in the House, you have access to reaching out to the Department of Homeland Security in ways that, you know, an average individual does not. Have you reached out to the secretary? Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything back?
No, I have not reached out yet. The young woman was after I showed up on the scene and spoke to the DHS people. They then unshackled her and let her go. So I felt no need to talk to the secretary. Now, I do feel a need to have a congressional investigation, and that's why I'm asking Jim Jordan to hold an investigation, a hearing, a committee hearing, and to that committee hearing, I assume we'll invite the secretary.
Real quick, has Jim Jordan said he will?
We haven't asked him yet. We're writing a letter now.
Got it. We'll follow up on that. Congressman, thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for...
Let me know in the comments, do you think Jerry Nadler even had a clue what was happening in his office? All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.